Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. I don't like giving a warning per se, because that sounds like, you need to, I don't know, maybe be seated and like, oh boy, where's this going? But I do want to, on a serious note, give a heads up that this week is going to be a little more of a serious, well, I won't say a lot more of a serious topic. September 10th through the 16th is Suicide Prevention Week. And so this week on my podcast, we are talking about that topic. And I know that that can be a trigger for some people. And I just want to give that heads up now because much like mental health, there's a stigma that surrounds it. There's a stigma that surrounds substance use disorder, and a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about suicide. So I genuinely respect and appreciate people who are willing to share stories from their family, because it helps other people know that they are not alone, and that for people who are out there, if you are struggling, remember 988 is a number that you can text or call in Pennsylvania, and I think it's just a really important topic that we do need to talk about. So with that out of the way, or just wanting to let you know, I will say I also like to say every week how I know my guest. If I don't know them, how I got to know them. Because for those of you who do listen on a regular basis, you're probably like, yeah, Janine, we've heard your spiel before, but I'm going to give it again. I think it is so important that we connect with people and we are open to meeting new people and referencing people that we do know, because you never know, like one of your friends might say, oh, I'm looking for a job. And you might know five people that you can connect them with, or someone who is looking for support, mental health wise, or, substance use. You might know someone in those fields and you can connect them. So that's why I think it is so important. So I will tell you for this week, I think I've referenced the fact that I'm working with King's College on a campaign called About Face. We're trying to educate, remove stigma around substance use, and to let people know where they can go, where the resources are. And through that work, I am doing the marketing communications. I got to meet a lovely young man. Well, young, yeah, he's young man. He'll say he's young. He's younger than me, so we'll call him a young man. Jamie Monahan, who's from Dunmore, who freely tells his story about being a high school athlete in Dunmore, going to East Stroudsburg, and having his life change severely due to substance use disorder. And he talks about his addiction freely and openly. He has spoken at King's College to our students. He's such a very kind guy who's willing to share his story. And it was through him that I had learned about the John Malvisi Foundation, which is relatively new. And that is how I really kind of became aware of my guest this week. But I will also say, and then I will, turn it over, because you know me, you guys, I could talk forever. But Nina Judge is my guest this week. And I want to say, in addition to Jamie making me aware of Nina's foundation, Nina did reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we were chatting about that before I hit the record button. I want to make that point. She had listened to an episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl with Kristen and Trish talking about somatic embodiment, somatic movement. And there was something they said that really struck a chord with Nina, and she did message me to let me know. And I am so grateful for that. And as we were saying before I hit the record button, don't be afraid to reach out to people and let them know that you've been impacted by something they said, something that they've done, anything like that, because we need connections. And I will say one last thing before I introduce Nina is that the Surgeon General actually did come out with a report in May about the importance of connection. Social isolation is a problem, and it's not just it's a problem with it can lead to really serious health concerns. So it's a problem for individuals and it's a problem for society. So we need to be connecting more, and I think it's great. Nina reached out to me, and I was so grateful, and she lifted my ego a bit, and it was a lovely way to know that I was actually making a difference through the weekly podcast. So if I've said enough, because I will keep talking, now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to introduce my guest this week. Nina Judge, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Janine. It is an honor to be on your podcast.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I will say before we get into the heart of a conversation, you made that lovely point and you said, we should reach out to people more when they impact us that way. And I would say that even kind of ties in a little bit what we're talking about today, because we need to know that we're not out there just floating in this life alone, right?
It does. I mean, I I would be lying if, I wasn't nervous reaching out to people, but just the connection that I made with you. I mean, here I am this is my first podcast ever, and I get to talk about my foundation. And simply because, I reached out to you. Jamie had made that connection, but I took the time to just let you know that I was listening to what you're putting out there. And it was just a message on LinkedIn. And what's the worst that can happen? Maybe you were too busy to answer me, and or maybe you just said, thanks, have a great day. But here we are, we made this connection, and I get to spread the message about mental health.
And you also shared, I know you did a post, which I also was super grateful for. And I think we sometimes forget that those things have great value too. Whether it's my podcast, whether it's your foundation, sharing about value, things that we find value in and resources. We have to think we're not the only ones. There are other people out there who will benefit, who need to know these things. So I thank you, and I think that's something that I would encourage my listeners to do, whether not just my podcast, but when you hear what the foundation is about today, share about it. Anything that you find value in, trust me, there are people out there who will find value in it as well. So let me first ask you, Nina. Now, we only met through LinkedIn, so I don't really know you, and my guests don't know you. So, unless, of course, it's like your family listening or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I know Nina, but you know what I'm saying. So, would you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up in Northeastern PA, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so born and raised in Northeastern PA, have never lived anywhere else. I currently live in Scranton, but was born and raised down in the Wilkes-Barre area, graduate of GAR, and just recently moved up to Scranton 2020, I think. Yeah, it was during the pandemic, with my now husband, Bobby Judge. But yeah, from the area, and love the area, and that's really why our foundation is kind of rooted and benefits the northeastern Pennsylvania community, because this is where I'm from. These are the people that I know. It's the people that know my dad, who the foundation is named for. um, as far as business background, I guess you could say professional background, I'm not a clinician. My connection to mental health is not through my career. I work for a local utility company. I've been there for almost 10 years, and I'm an active student. I go to Temple University. I'm in grad school. So,
Oh,
mm,
wow. You're
yeah,
busy.
I'm busy.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what are you going for? What are you going for right now with Temple?
Going for my MBA.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
a lot of my business background is is helpful in the foundation, and was really, helped us kick it off, being able to have that business knowledge and business acumen.
I absolutely, I totally get that because, and having that, and obviously having the personal interest to make a difference and the passion combined with the business acumen is a great combination. So we've referenced the foundation a few times. So I want to tell my listeners the John Malvisi Foundation is named after Nina's father. So John Malvisi, your father, he died by suicide, and that's why I said, this can be a trigger for some people, but it is something we do need to talk about. Share whatever you're comfortable sharing about your father, how long ago, that sort of thing.
Sure, yeah. So, my father lived with bipolar disorder pretty much most of his life. I don't think bipolar disorder was really something that was existed. He was born in the 60s, so it's not really. I don't even know when they decided to call that disorder bipolar disorder, but he was officially diagnosed in his adult life. Um, but he lived with it most of his life. He died by suicide in July of 2021. And, I'm his only child. He was an amazing man, one of the most caring people. Anyone who knew him, they didn't even know that he had this disorder, because a lot of people who have these disorders, that's, there's a stigma and they hide it. And even me being his only daughter, I didn't really know until I was an adult. It's when he actually had shared with me that he had a disorder. Obviously, growing up, I knew, he would have his bad moments. He would be depressed, and he would kind of just disassociate. It's what people who are ashamed of their disorder do. And it's probably one of the worst things, right? When you're in that state of mind, you need people, and you especially need the people that love you. But, you know, as much as he had those bad moments, there were some really great ones. He loved spoiling me, loved spoiling my son. He was an amazing grandfather, loved giving us anything that he can. He didn't come from much, but he would give anyone the shirt off of his back. Loved going on Sunday drives in whatever sports car he had at that time. He loved Ford Mustangs, and he loved Sunday breakfast at a diner, and just simple things. That was my dad.
Yeah. So, and thank you so much for sharing that. Did you have, so you said you didn't really know yourself until you were an adult. Did you have any, just for people listening who I'm sure, I've had guests on here, at least two or three different guests who have bipolar disorder, all women actually, but I know it does affect all genders. But, did you have any ideas where your father was mentally before he took his life? Was there, I mean, obviously, you be there, and the person, if they're holding it in, like you said, maybe they're not sharing when they're really hurting. Is that the case with your dad, would you say?
I would say, for the most part, I mean, even when he told me as an adult, he probably told me when I was maybe 20. So, that was, I didn't really understand, I knew that he had a disorder, but I didn't think that I needed to be any different. But leading up to his passing, obviously it was, following the pandemic. We were still in the pandemic. The pandemic was very hard on him. He was terrified of ever, in his mind, he thought, if I get COVID and I give it to you or my son Travis, it would be devastating to him. So he, we talked, and he would like come drop things off, but he didn't want to be near us. He didn't want to, go to work, because he had to go to work every day, and he didn't want to be ultimately the reason that the people that he loved got sick. So, I knew, just based on behavior, maybe I wouldn't hear from him for a little while, and I would check in, and it would be very short answers, or um, just, I mean, some triggers to kind of, or things to look out for, which I didn't really realize them until after the fact, but things to mention, and some people may not be comfortable hearing them, but people should hear them, is, if they're saying things like, I did this because if something ever happened to me, or they say things, they're kind of like planning or getting their affairs in order, even if it's just something minor. Especially if they have a disorder, that's a sign that they're at least thinking about it. And unfortunately, I didn't know enough beforehand to ask. A common misconception is that if you ask someone who is suicidal if they are suicidal, it can make them think to do it. That isn't true at all. You should ask if you think someone is planning or having any thoughts. You should just confront them about it, and offer them, like you said, the 988 or any resources that you may have. I don't want to ramble too much, but I was actually recently certified in mental health first aid. It's something that people can do through Penn State Extension locally. You can do it online. That's how I did it. But that's something that I learned in that training, is that that's just completely not true. If someone is thinking about it, or if you think that they're thinking about it, chances they are, and you asking is not going to make them think about it more or go and do it. It actually has the opposite effect.
That's wonderful that you brought that up. I do, in addition to like Kings with About Face, one of my marketing clients is also NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Northeast Region, PA. I work with Marie over there on a cabbage, and they do mental health first aid training as well. And they will offer it for anyone listening at an organization, whether it's a workplace or a nonprofit. They will work with you on that as well, the training. And that is really important, I think, especially in this day and age. It's mental health is just something, I mean, we say mental health is health, right? It's part of us, it's
Hmm.
part of everyone. So, before it used to be like, oh, mental health, like I don't like, it's funny how people even use it. It's like, no, we all have mental health. It is what
Right.
it's all part of our lives. And I do believe most of us do have something that affects it. It does different levels of seriousness. I joked to you before about brain fog with my perimenopause right now. And it's like I joke a lot about it, but it's actually not, it's serious. I mean,
It's
I
real.
do,
Yeah.
it's real. And I experience depression now, and I'm still struggling with, because it's one of those things, and I won't go off on mine. I don't want to distract from our topic today. There's unfortunately not a lot of knowledgeable people, even doctors, who will address you. They just automatically say, here's an anti-anxiety, or here's a whatever, whether
Hmm.
whether or not you need that or hormone replacement or whatever, but it is real. So that's how I deal with my mental health is changing. But we all have something. And I think that it is important, that mental health first aid. So check that out. All those folks who are listening, it is important. And I think that's wonderful that you did receive that training. That's great. Before we talk about the foundation, is there anything else as far as about your father that, like, if you had an opportunity, if there was one more thing that you just feel you didn't get to say, or what would you want to tell him?
Obviously that he was not alone, and that he can talk to me about anything. I feel like I was kind of his, I was his rock, and it it was something that which actually I didn't share this, but I'll share it, is when he had told me that he had bipolar disorder when I was 19 or 20, he actually did share with me that when he was a teenager, he had suicidal thoughts when he that young, and that he just couldn't go through with it. And I think throughout his life, when he finally passed, he was 57, almost 58. So to live that long without he had treatment. He would go on medications, then he would go off of them because he didn't like how they made him feel, which is common. It's very common.
Yes. Yes.
um but that was ultimately his downfall, and then the pandemic. To live that his entire life, I think I was a big part of that. And then I had my son very young, so then he had a grandson to worry about. So I think um he thought that he just needed to be around for us, but which, yes, we miss him very much. So that is something that I would love to say to him, but that we were here for him as well. He didn't just have to be here for us.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for sharing that. And I think, sadly, I think the pandemic did really was very challenging for a lot of people, especially, whether it's people and I know Jamie had talked about that in his talk, people with substance use disorders that
Hmm.
and mental health issues. It's that it goes back to what I mentioned earlier with the Surgeon General. It was that disconnect. We all suddenly were
Yeah.
disconnected from one another. And as you mentioned with your dad, that we and a lot of us, we didn't know what to do. We had fear, so we weren't connecting with family even in many cases, and that did sadly have some pretty dramatic effects in some cases. And that's
Yeah.
so I thank you for sharing. I am sorry for your loss, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, because so many people need to hear this. And
Yeah.
you make a great point too about the medicine too, because I've had Gab Benesso, Roya Hamadani, Kelly Moran. These are three women who shared their stories, and they've all talked to some degree about, if you don't get the medication right, it can be challenging,
Hmm.
very
Yeah.
challenging. But you're doing something good. Obviously, you have a lot of beautiful memories of your father, and it's great that he got to know your son. But you've started a foundation in his name, the John Malvisi Foundation, and it is still relatively new. Tell me about what prompted you to start the foundation, because you could just have your memories and deal with this on your own, but you're sharing something with the public. Tell me what prompted you to start it, and tell us about what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. So very early on, obviously, it my dad's passing was very unexpected. But within a couple of months, dealing with the grief of his passing, I felt like I didn't want to hide his, how he passed. I wanted to share his story. There are so many people that are ashamed of sharing when a loved one dies by suicide, and they shouldn't feel that way. And I felt like I needed to share his story. And I had attended the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention every year. They do an Out of the Darkness walk at Kirby Park in Luzerne County. And I had attended it that September. So, it was very fresh. It hadn't even been 2 months. I attended the walk that September with a couple of friends. But then I attended again last year. And last year in 2022, I had a little more motivation. I wanted to, I made my own team. I was a team captain. I raised about $1,700 total, with the help of other people on my team and a small fundraiser that we did. And I felt like we didn't even try that hard, and I raised $1,700. So I kind of thought, you know, if we tried a little harder, we can make a little more of a difference. And then because we raised so much, I got the free t-shirt. Everyone gets, if you raise $150 as someone who registered for the walk, you get the free shirt. And on the back, it has all of the corporate sponsors. So, it'll have the logos of the corporate sponsors. And when you look at how you get on the shirt, it's a $500 donation. So when I got the shirt, I came home and I held it up to my, at the time, I don't even think we were engaged, but Bobby, I held it up to Bobby and I said, there were maybe, I think, 9 corporate sponsors on the shirt. And I said, there should be more on here. Why are there only 9 sponsors that gave a minimum? I'm sure there were more, but these 9 gave $500 or more. And they were all like healthcare businesses. And I was like, this impacts everyone. Why are there only 9? Why are they all healthcare related? And that was really kind of the push to sit down and I said, I want to start our own organization where this is kind of what we do. We help existing organizations because there are so many out there. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. There are several mental health foundations that are already established and they're already doing great things. But I think that they just need a little help with the message, right? Helping people relate something that, maybe they're not touched by suicide, but they're touched by something else. And then when we kind of make that connection for them, they're willing to come and support the walk and support that mission of AFSP. So, as you mentioned, we're a very new organization. This was just last September that we sat down, and as I mentioned, I'm a business student, so we started writing a business plan and getting all of our ideas together on the things that we would want to do. Hit the ground running, kind of just started sharing this idea with everyone. Had a board together by I think January of this year. We were officially incorporated with the IRS in February of this year. And, we're chugging along. We have some events coming up, a lot of ideas and a lot of projects that we're planning for the future. And something I'll do, it's kind of boring, but I'll just read our mission statement quick so that people can kind of get an idea. So our mission statement is to provide families and communities with the resources needed to increase mental health awareness and improve their quality of life. And something that I really want to touch on with our organization that we've really kind of lived by when we started to write. And when I say we, it's my husband, Bobby, and I, we co-founded this together, is mental health really does impact everyone. As you mentioned, mental health is health, and everyone should be aware of that. And everyone is impacted by it. So we didn't want to have this have a very specific mission statement because we didn't want to just be tied to suicide or just be tied to families or just be tied to one specific thing. Because when you think of organizations, you can kind of put a mental health spin on any of them and what their mission is. And that's what we wanted to do. We want to support these other organizations, whether they are actually preaching mental health or not, and let us preach the mental health, right? Um, we like to use CASA as an example. I forget what it stands for, CASA. I think it's there, it's the foster care.
Mm.
I think it's there. There's CASA of Lackawanna County, CASA of Luzerne County, but they support children in foster care. And there are several people who maybe they don't even know what CASA is, and when they hear foster care, they're like, "Well, I don't really have any ties to foster care," but there's a mental health impact to any child who is living in foster care. They don't have a family to go to. They don't have um, Christmas to spend with people, and even the families of those children who maybe aren't involved and wish that they could be, but they can't. That's kind of what we want to do. We want to open people's eyes to these existing organizations that maybe they're not selling mental health or mental health awareness, but you can really tie it to any organization that it has any type of mission for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, you're dealing with humans, right? And if you're dealing with humans, there's mental health. So
Right,
that's, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned, let's give a plug to the walk that's coming up. I believe is it Sunday, September 10th?
Yes, Sunday, September 10th. As I mentioned, Kirby Park. It's at Kirby Park again this year. Registration starts at 12. It kicks off at 1 p.m. And the walk itself it's an awareness walk. They obviously are raising money, but the idea is for awareness. So it is free to register. Anyone who is interested, you can register for the walk. You can register to actually attend, or you can just register virtually. If you want to support the AFSP and raise money, you can register virtually. They have a great platform through Donor Drive, which once you register, it allows you to set a goal and then share it on social media so that your network can, donate to the cause, or they can also, like you mentioned, just share to their networks. You can start your own team. As I mentioned, the John Malvisi Foundation, we have our own team. You can join our team, you can join any other team, or you can start your own. We set a goal of $5,000. Right now we're about the halfway mark. I think we're at about $2,500. So a couple of weeks left. Hopefully we reach our goal, but you could see the difference that we've made. Last year I raised 1,700. This year our team's already at 2,500. So yeah, we have that coming up. That's one of the most important events because it's kind of what got the idea of the John Malvisi Foundation started.
Yeah, that was what ignited your idea, right? Let me ask you about, and I'm going to ask you about the other upcoming events. I know when I was following posts from Jamie, about he was posting about the foundation, the Clear Umbrella Project. Now, is that something that your foundation is doing, and what is that about?
Yeah, so I'll actually kind of explain how that even came about. So when we sat down to write our mission statement, it kind of just came pouring out of us, and we were like, "What are we supposed to do with this?" Right? Like it. We started to think of a logo, and then we were just trying to think about things about mental health. And I actually have it in front of me, so I will read it so that people know what it is, and then I'll talk about it a little more. So the Clear Umbrella Project is about breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. It is a metaphor for speaking openly about mental health and the impacts that can be made if we #see through it. The clear umbrella symbolizes mental health and its importance. On dark and dreary days, an umbrella keeps us safe from the rain. Most of us choose to see the material on the outside as our protection from the weather. We opt for our favorite colors or patterns to show off when we open it up. It is the structure, though, that supports the fabric, and without it, the umbrella would not protect us. The clear umbrella, the structure, is mental health, and the clear fabric is awareness. When we use a clear umbrella, we can easily see our surroundings. We do not struggle to lift the umbrella above our head to see where we are going. We are able to speak openly with others, all the while remaining protected. If we speak openly about mental health and our struggles, it allows others to see us, which can help us see through it. So,
And did you
that
guys put that together? This was yours? That's beautiful.
we did. So my husband and I both put that together. And as I said, we're very passionate about this. So it literally just it came pouring out of us. We started talking about the umbrella and the clear umbrella, and then just sitting at the computer, just typing away. And we literally were just looking at it. We're like, what do we do with this? It's really not a mission. It's really not a vision. And but we knew it was important because we started to share it with some people, and they were like, I get it, that it makes sense, right? Um, when I think about it, if we ever wanted to visually show it, it's like you can literally show someone with a clear umbrella and then someone else holding one that's not clear, and people kind of see it, right? If you are kind of protecting yourself with this umbrella that you can't see through, people can't see you, and they don't know something's wrong. You may feel protected, but no one can help you. But then the clear umbrella is it's raining out, you're protected from the rain, but others can see you. And if something's wrong, they can see that, and you can see them, and you can see that they want to help you. So that's the idea behind the clear umbrella. It's about not being afraid to share your struggles or share your issues, because you are still protected. People are going to protect you. You have protection. And that's what the clear umbrella is all about. Something else to actually mention with the walk is we had Action Lift generously donated the funds to purchase 100 clear umbrellas, which we will have at the walk at Kirby Park. Anyone who has registered for our team will be getting a free umbrella. And then if we have any left, obviously anyone else who wants one, they will be free that day, because we want to we want to spread this message and have that powerful, if people see us all walking with these clear umbrellas, they're gonna be like, what are they doing? And hopefully they ask and we get to tell them about it.
It's a great visual, and like I said, I love the words that you guys have put together, and it makes perfect sense. The idea of transparency and even vulnerability. Sometimes I think that gets in the way. Not with everyone, but some people, they don't want to maybe be seen because like they are embarrassed, or the stigma, which they should not be, because they're loved and they need to get be okay to talk with people because people are going to help them. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you don't show, I think it's just as a society, we kind of grow up, and even as kids, how many parents are like, don't cry in the store, or don't have outbursts in the store, and we kind of grow up, and then as adults, we hide that. I remember, after my dad had passed, just just all of the emotions pouring out, right? Um, but I would break down, I still do. Grief is a funny thing. You can break down in the store because anything can trigger a memory. And at this point in my life, I'm just like, I'll cry, whatever, and that's how everyone should be. There's no one can help you if they don't know how you're feeling. I know it's easier to just put a smile on and tell everyone that you're doing okay, but then you can't find the help that you need. If and most people are willing to at least just tell you things are going to be better, or just be an open ear. There's more people that are willing to help than aren't.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, be an open ear, or even tell you about a resource, or can I give you a ride to a resource? Can I,
Right.
have a seat, take a breath, something just to
Yeah.
get, sometimes it's just getting through the moment, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, well, I'm not a psychologist. Well, you don't have to be to listen to somebody and just let them vent or let them just breathe and know that someone cares about them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, that's very cool then. That will definitely make a statement at the walk. That's really neat. So you mentioned, I know I did see on your website, you guys do have I believe a fundraiser coming up, a golf outing fundraiser. And I don't know if you have any others, but please share what else you have so that we can let everybody know.
Yeah. So right now we just have the walk, and then the golf tournament is coming up. So the golf tournament is the John Malvisi Foundation, where we are the recipient of any funds raised for that. So it's really just to fund our, fiscal year 2024. We have a lot of projects, which, I'll get into detail of some of them, but it's really to fund those. And that is on October 15th at Sand Springs in Drums. It is a 4-person scramble tournament, shotgun start at 1. We've had a ton of support already with that. Right now, we really just need golfers. So anyone listening who, knows any golfers, or if you are a golfer, come out and support us. Um, that that event is we're using the Eventbrite platform for that. So you can search us on there, or, if you Google Tee Up for Transparency is actually the name of it. If you Google that, you could find us. But so much support so far. We have, as far as raffles, we have a lot of big ticket items. I think it's going to be one of those big ticket item type of events. We have a nice Blackstone grill donated by Lowe's. We have a electric smoker that will be raffled off. That was donated by my aunts and uncles generously. Sheets so far donated a $250 gift card. So a lot of great things that are going to come from that. We also have, so something else to mention, being a mental health awareness organization, we have decided, and it's interesting enough, I'm on Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl, but we have decided that any event that we ever host is, we won't be ever making any money off of any alcoholic beverages or offering them. Obviously, it's a golf tournament. People can drink there if they want to. But typically, for people who come to a golf tournament, they're used to, you get a free hot dog and a beer with your ticket. So for our golf tournament, we had decided, we don't want to provide any alcohol. So we actually reached out to Parlor Beverage. It's a local, they're a big mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But Parlor Beverage will be donating some of their sodas. So rather than the beer and a hot dog, you will be having a Parlor root beer or birch beer, whatever you like that they've provided with your hot dog.
That's great. Yeah, Parlor. I know I've some of the guys locally who are involved in that. That's a great, very, very cool brand. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, you're on Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl, but you don't have to be a drinker to listen or to be on the show. And
Yeah.
I think that and that could be obviously a whole different topic. But alcohol, I mean, that's a problem everywhere, but a problem in this region for sure too. And that definitely can have its impact on mental health. So I respect your decision to do that, and that's completely understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we have nothing against it. We enjoy a nice glass of wine or a drink out to dinner too, but it's kind of a catalyst for people who have mental health issues, substance abuse. That's just, so as an organization, we just, if we're preaching mental health, we didn't ever want to, you won't ever see JM having a fundraiser at a bar. Basically, we're not going to raise money off of that. There's so many other ways to do things, and support our foundation. So it's just a decision that we had made.
Yeah, I totally respect that. Yeah.
Yeah, and something else that I'll say that kind of goes with your networking, you're all about networking, is I actually made my connection with Parlor obviously I'm the CEO of our foundation, so I'm responsible for soliciting for people to support us. And for this golf tournament, I have just reached out to pretty much anyone because, again, you don't know who has ties to mental health. And I actually reached out to Chris Jones, who is, I mean, I think he's the co-founder of like so many things.
Of
He's amazing,
everything.
but
Yeah.
yeah, of like anything that you could think of. But I had reached out to him for his it's lseo.com that he has, and he actually supported our golf tournament. But he making that connection with him, he then shared our information with his I think it's four of them that started Parlor. He shared everything with them, and then Josh got back to me about the root beer, and here we are. We have soda donated to the golf tournament. So um just going to reiterate that message to anyone listening that don't be afraid to reach out to people. Just make a connection. Chances are you have something in common. Just find common ground, and people are more than willing to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You just have to ask, just have a conversation. Yeah. I mean, and so what? They might say no. That's okay. You move on. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time anyway. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Not everyone is going to have the same thoughts as you, and that's okay.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a matter of budget even. It's like, okay, not this year, but maybe reach out to us next year, when we have a little bit more, funding or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've got the golf tournament in October. I'll put that information in my show notes too. What would you like to share? Because I'm sure sometimes some things may not be finalized and some things you may want to not share just yet. What are a couple things you would like to share about what you're thinking about for 2024?
Yeah, so I will just give a shout out to the Luzerne Foundation. We partnered with them because right now, as we both mentioned, we're very new. We were just incorporated in February, so we have applied for 501(c)(3) status, but that is pending. So, but obviously, we don't want to sit and wait around. So here we are. We want to have these events, and a lot of donors need that. They need a 501(c)(3). So the Luzerne Foundation has been great. We actually partnered with them, and we have a fund through them. So anyone who wants to donate through them can. That's one of the channels. You can donate through our website as well, directly to us. But if you need that tax deductible receipt, you would go through the Luzerne Foundation. So they have been amazing, set us up within a couple of days. So, I would just say anyone who has any similar ideas and they don't know how to get started, reach out to Diane Dutko and David Pedri at the Luzerne Foundation. They're great. They're similar to the Scranton Community Foundation. I think there's some differences, but they are similar in, they help organizations in the community do what they want to do. So we have that. They've also been great in helping us kind of realize what we want to do. We haven't fully decided yet, but let's say a year or two from now, we take off and we raise more money than we know what to do with, because we have some ideas, but our board is filled with working professionals that we don't have a ton of time, but we don't want to just sit on all of these funds that we're raising telling people that we're going to do something in the community. So they did help us with the idea of eventually being like a grant. We would give grants to people who are looking for funds for some sort of mental health project. So that may be in the near future. We also are awaiting I guess you can say, approval from Active Minds. We have an idea it would be a very large community event, but we would host it in Scranton. Active Minds is if anyone who's not familiar with it, they are a mental health organization. They're national, but their focus is on like young adults and like older high school and college students. So they do a lot of they have a lot of information about, you know, suicide prevention and mental health, and it's geared towards like college high schoolers. But something that piqued our interest when I was kind of just looking for different organizations to partner with is they have something called Send Silence Packing. And it's basically like a visual display where they come with all of these backpacks and they just kind of set them up somewhere. So the idea is you kind of have it somewhere where people are going to see it and wonder, similar to how I talked about these clear umbrellas, where you're like, what the heck is going on? You know, people would wonder, you know, what are these backpacks? And they set up different stories about suicide and you know, suicide prevention and just all of these different stories on some of the backpacks. They have their staff there. And then the idea is if we're hosting it, you know, we can make it a big community event. So you know, you have local schools involved. We actually talked to Lackawanna College, one of the contacts there. They actually have an Active Minds chapter. So, you know, if we're approved, it's a hefty bill. So that is definitely something that we're looking to raise money at this golf tournament will go towards that. But something that hopefully we're approved for and looking to do in the Scranton community, hopefully next year.
That sounds like an amazing project and very effective and dramatic that I think would, you know, do what you want to do, which is let's talk about this and let's break through the silence. That's going sounds really good. Yeah, I hope you get approved. That's wonderful.
Yeah. But yeah,
Very
you know,
cool.
it's just things like that. You know, we're looking for opportunities to just make a difference, get people talking, get people to listen, and just help people realize that they shouldn't be ashamed, that everyone should talk about it. I know that it's a really touchy subject, but it we can't hide it anymore. It impacts everyone. One of the statistics that I think I shared recently on I think I did it on LinkedIn through the John Malvisi Foundation. And it's a common statistic. I think NAMI has it, so I'll cite them, but I think I cited a different source when I posted it. But um, it's that 1 in 4 adults in the US are impacted by some sort of mental disorder. So, I mean, when you think about 1 in 4, think about a family, right? If it's a family of, you know, parents are in their 60s and all of their children are in their 40s, there's more than likely more than one or even two people in the family, depending how big it is, are impacted by a mental disorder. Um, to even make it a little more like so people can relate to it, think of it if you're at the grocery store and you're standing in line and there's 5 people in line. There's most likely one person. So when you think about it that way, anywhere that you go throughout your entire day, you are surrounded by people who are impacted. And when you think about that one person that maybe has that mental disorder, think of everyone else around them that is close to them that is impacted by that mental disorder, even though they don't have it. They're impacted by this person that they love. And there are mental health impacts to them. And it just, so we're all impacted. It's why we all need to talk about it, because it affects all of us and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. None of us are alone.
That very well said. That's a great message. Before we wrap up, first I want to ask if you can state the foundation's website so that people can check it out.
Yeah, so it's johnmalvisifoundation.org.
And that's spell that just because I mean some people might be
Yes.
like, okay, how is that
They're like,
spelled?
how do I spell that?
Yeah,
So it's John, John, and then Malvizzi, and then foundation.
foundation.org, right? ORG.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
will put that in the show notes as well. But otherwise, I would just like to ask in closing, is there something else that we didn't touch upon that you would like to mention in closing?
I think we really touched on everything, but really, you know, back to our networking and everything, anyone who is looking to reach out, I did mention I'm not a clinician. I don't have a mental health background, but we're preaching that we want people to talk about things. So if anyone has any ideas, any issues that they want to bring up, I'm an open ear. My husband, anyone on our board is an open ear, and we will find the resources for you. I mentioned that I'm now certified in mental health first aid. That is part of that training, is just kind of knowing to the resources to point people to. My husband is as well, so really just we're open to partnering with different organizations. We're open to hearing any individual story. We love talking to anyone who feels moved by our mission, or even if you're not moved by it and you want to be involved, that's we're open to anything.
Okay. And what's the best way for someone who just, whether they want to help or they want to ask you questions, how would you like to be contacted?
So, probably the easiest way, since we're on this podcast and we shared the website, there is a contact us on our website. You can do that. You can also reach directly out to me. My foundation email is nina.judge@johnmalvezyfoundation.org.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate this. I know this is can't always be easy, like you said, different days emotions come up. So again, I appreciate you sharing your story, and I know that your story sharing the foundation is definitely helping people. I know it is. The more we talk about this and remove the stigma, the best it's going to be. And I know every time we do that, I know that it helps. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today and sharing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, to my listeners, so today was a little bit of a heavier topic, but I mean, this is, as we talked about, something that needs to be talked about. So please check out in the show notes the link to the foundation's website. Check out Clear Umbrella Project is amazing. So if you can make it to the event September 10th, or just make a donation, that would be awesome as well. Events, or I should say topics we have coming up. Julie Esty, one of my repeat offenders, or I should say repeat guests. She's always a hoot to have on. She's going to be talking about a book she wrote about some her theories on some murders in Scranton. And she's a historian. She'll be at the Dunmore Cemetery in October. The dearly departed players is it's always a good time. And then I will have Katie Culligan on talking about something we share in common, standardized patient work, which is all people who know me know that that's also been featured in my stand-up comedy, because there's always something fun about playing various ailments, from ectopic pregnancy to kidney infection to gallbladder, you name it. So some lighthearted events coming up, or I should say topics coming up, but again, not to diminish what we talked about today. If you are struggling, please remember 988, and NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. They are also a resource in the area, Northeast Region PA, in Lackawanna County, but there's also Luzerne County. So there are resources available if you do need help. And as Nina mentioned, please reach out to Nina and or Bobby at the John Malvisi Foundation if you want to share, if you want to get involved, because we need to keep talking about this. So again, I thank you for listening. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.